Welcome back to the Brotagonists podcast. I am your bro host, Mason.
And I'm your bro host, Carter. Welcome back. But today's a good one. We are going to be doing a book breakdown on Eragon, the first book in the inheritance cycle. Here is my copy right here. Actually, one of my crown jewels on the shelf. It's a signed copy by Christopher Paolini himself. And, it was actually, there we go, right there. So I love this.
That is a cool signature.
It is a cool signature. I see his videos talking to the camera like Brandon Sanderson does and signing them. We're doing a book breakdown on Eragon, the first book in the inheritance cycle. And then we will be doing a blind rankings, which Mason will be giving me a list of something that I don't know yet, and I'll have to blind rank them. And then we'll be doing a guess who. Then at the end, we're doing a Watchtower review of what we know about the Eragon TV series adaptation that Disney's taking on. And we'll be going over everything we know about that series so far and diving into that and giving you guys some takes there. And then at the end, Mason has a weapon of wisdom for us, and that should finish off the episode. So thanks for being here. Mason, what are you reading?
Well, I have to apologize because it's probably the third week in a row that I'm telling the same book. But I finished Zelda while I was in Peru. It actually did go very fast. I told you once I sat down, it would take like an hour and a half max to get it done, and I did. So I finished Zelda. It was great. I didn't realize the Zelda books, they're not a continuation. They're all are just like different versions of Link's story.
Like different reincarnations or what?
Just like different scenarios. Like the Ocarina of Time, he was a complete orphan, no one looking after him, was raised by like the Dooku tree, and was kind of an outcast in the community. Where in this one, the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Time, he was he had lived with his grandparents, and he came from like a long generation of knights, and so it was kind of like his knight's quest, and still had like a lot of like the similar characters and themes and things and everything. It was but it was good to read. They're interesting mangas to kind of break it up. And I'm also still reading Howling Dark. As you can see, I've probably not made a ton of progress. I've liked it so far. I've started listening and reading more and more, and I am still ahead of schedule to read 50 books this year, so we're still in a good spot.
So you're not stressing out?
Not yet.
Well, I just finished Gates of Fire, which is, like I've talked about, it's basically like an intense boots on the ground look at the Spartans at Thermopylae, but it's a lot more personal than just like the history of the story. And it really leans into like brotherhood and the discipline of the Spartans and what it actually costs to stand your ground when you're outmatched. And it makes the whole legend just feel like really real and gritty instead of just a glorified myth. And so that was fun. That was a cool look at Thermopylae. And I think maybe I'll have to watch 300 now. I wish there was is there another movie that's kind of goes over that? That's like 300, but just.
That's there, because there's a second 300 movie that's kind of like what was going on with the Athenians. But
I never saw that.
But there was a show on Netflix. I think it was a movie that was like, I think it might have been called like Leonidas and the 300 Brave or something like that. It was probably made like in the 80s or 90s, but the story of 300. Maybe you could try looking that one up. I'm sure there's a lot of things on it. It's such a famous battle.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, that's what I just finished, and I'm going to be making the decision on what to read next. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to decide between Dungeon Crawler Carl and the Bound and the Broken series.
I would do Dungeon Crawler Carl. That one's popular right now, and a lot of people have been recommending that one to me as well.
Okay. Well, then I'll do it. That's what I'm going to do. Dungeon Crawler Carl up next. So our book breakdown on Eragon. I'll show you my book again, and I'll show you the signature of Christopher Paolini again. I don't know if you can see, but I also have this little stamp that says from the library of Carter McEntee. So that's one of the books that's like the gem in the middle of my shelf. So I read this book like 6 or 7 years ago, the whole series straight through. And then just a few months ago, I read Murtag or Murtag. How do you pronounce Murtag?
I say Murtag.
Yeah, it's the easiest, Murtag. But I've heard that name pronounced Murtaugh,
Murtagh. Yeah, I've heard of Murtagh. When did I start reading
You read this
them?
last year.
Yeah, I think maybe it was in 2024 I started reading those. I think I read the first Eragon in 2024, and I read the rest in 2025. But yeah, it's a series that's really easy to enjoy. And I think Christopher Paolini wrote the first one, Eragon, the book we're reviewing today, when he was 16. And as he grew in maturity, so did his writing, and each book I think gets progressively more adult and progressively better.
Yeah, he started it when he was 15 years old and published it when he was 16, I think. So that's pretty crazy. And this was all the way back in 2002. He self-published it. And then right immediately in 2003, it was traditionally published. And this is one of those books that as a kid, I would just walk by at the store and just look at and want to be smart enough to read it. And I was scared of it because I tried to read it when I was in middle school and it was just too, I don't know, it was too much for my brain at that point, I guess. But I read it in my early 20s. We can't wait to talk about this one. Eragon, the official synopsis is Eragon follows a farm boy who discovers a mysterious blue stone that turns out to be a dragon egg. When it hatches into Saphira, his life flips overnight. He's pulled into a larger conflict against the tyrant king Galbatorix, mentored by the mysterious storyteller Brahm, and begins training as one of the last dragon riders, a nearly extinct order of warriors bound to dragons. It's a classic nobody to chosen hero arc with a heavy focus on destiny, sacrifice, and growth. And that's Eragon. That's essentially what I said in the first thing. A farm boy finds a mysterious stone that hatches into a dragon, and suddenly he's the last hope against a tyrant king. That was much quicker.
Let's get into it. What did you like about the book?
I think for me, it was the first Dragon Rider series I read, and I really don't think I read a lot, but it's not original, but it did kind of pull me back to fantasy at its roots and why I love fantasy. It's just a feel-good fantasy, and Aragon as a character that Christopher Paolini writes in such a way that you can really identify with his journey. And that's cool because you can really imagine yourself, becoming this dragon rider and having a dragon of your own. That's kind of the fun part about this book. And you're right. I mean, he was 16 when he finished this book, and I don't know if it exactly shows as a 16-year-old, but it shows that he does get better and that it was a debut novel for him because every single one after does get a lot better. But what did you like about the book?
I really think that the setting of it is rather dark, but because it does read like a little bit more young adult, written by a young adult, that but it's still light at the same time. Anyone can really sit down and read it and not feel like overwhelmed by like the intensity of the story, but it's kind of like it's like watching like the Star Wars Clone Wars, where everyone that's a Star Wars fan is invested in it and wants to watch it, and it has definitely some very adult themes and moments, but at the same time, because it's a cartoon, anyone can watch it, and, I think Aragon's kinda that way where anyone can read it, but it still, like, has, like, an adult story. It's just, like, kinda the writing is just kinda catching up to, like, the theme of it, which made it feel light, made it feel easy, and you could just keep reading and reading and not feel, like, overwhelmed with, like, the intensity you get from Red Rising or, like, The Sun Eater, where sometimes you're just like, "Okay, I just need, like, a few hours, that was a lot." And, Aragon's an enjoyable character, uh, there's a lot of enjoyable characters. Saphira is a really fun dragon, and yeah, it's just a fun story to go with, even though he's like you said, it's not original, but it's a classic.
What he did so well was the bond between dragons and like that telepathic communication and the dialogue. That's cool. But Aragon, he's not very complex. What is it about the orphan trope that is in so many books like this that's so attractive for authors to use?
I think it's that everyone wants to root for an underdog, and it just, like, has, like, more story there, like, than someone that starts at the top and doesn't have any issues to stay there. So I think if you just think of, like, what could be, like, the most miserable situation to put someone in, and just to not have their parents, and then
It's almost like immediate character development, and so you don't
yeah.
have to build anything. Like it's just kind of a head start for you there.
You gotta attack emotions and story, self-discovery. There's, like, so many things you can do to just build off of, "Okay, this guy's got no parents."
Yeah. I like this book because for getting I like this book for getting people into fantasy because it is like just the classic fantasy, like the classic hero's journey. It's very much in the lane of Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings, where it's, farm boy gets a mentor, suffers loss, trains, and then destiny. It's just feel good, like I said. Is there
It
any
is very feel good.
Yeah, you just feel it's so easy to read and to listen to on Audible, and it's comfortable, and it never feels forced. I feel like another Dragon Rider series we've already talked about is Fourth Wing, where sometimes scenes with dragons or the bonding of dragons can feel forced and sudden, but this is just so gradual, especially because the dragon hatches with the writer and bonds with the writer. So it's just different, but very comfortable and fun to read. It's very enjoyable for anybody that reads it.
So, I would say what I'm about to say is both praise and criticism of this book is it's very one-dimensional, and so if you're a very high fantasy reader, a very, like, adult reader, and you're looking for a complex plot with twists and turns along the way, this isn't really it, but the one-dimensionalness of it, where it's just kind of the story, it's the same character for the entire first book. There's not a lot of twists and turns, it's just kind of a guy on an adventure, and you follow him through it, and there's not really much more to it. Like there's the bigger plot, but there's not like a ton of things to keep track of. There isn't crazy story building or even crazy world building. It's just very basic. So people that are maybe just getting into reading or just getting into reading fantasy, it's a very good beginner step. But for those that are really into high fantasy, it doesn't quite have the complex world building, several arcs going on at once, and a huge elaborate plot that all comes together.
Yeah. It does feel more and more complex every book you get into it, but especially in the first book, you're right. It's funny, I was thinking about how there's elves and dwarves in this book, and I was thinking about all the fantasy that I've read that has elves and dwarves in it. There's always like a race that could be compared to orcs from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
So in this series, it's the Urgles.
yeah.
Wheel of Time doesn't have elves or dwarves, but they have the Trollocs, and then there's, uh, it's just there's always this
The fades are just like the ring wraiths. Yeah,
yeah, there's just this gross, ugly race that nobody cares if they die. But I think what makes this book stand out is the dragon bond between Eragon and Saphira, how it's so deep, and their relationship is emotional, and it's like a good partnership, and their telepathic communication adds good depth, and the magic system. Christopher Paolini wrote almost a whole language for this book. I think either the dwarf language or the magic, the language for the magic,
yeah.
and that's cool. That's something that makes it feel a little more high fantasy. And the magic system, what I was getting to was it requires energy, and if you overuse it, you can literally die. So that grounding makes the fights feel high stakes, instead of just getting tired or like you can't use magic anymore. There's some real consequences.
So something that came to my mind as you were talking was, would you classify this as following the Tolkien template then?
I would. Yeah, I would.
I
Yeah,
never thought about it before. It just, like, didn't connect, but it totally does.
this is have you read Dragon Riders of Pern? That I think I want to say that's the original Dragon Rider series. And I want to read it, but it's so many books that I'm intimidated, but I feel like I have to read it eventually. I almost feel like it's Dragon Riders of Pern meets Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. It wasn't until you were talking, I was like, "Oh, yeah, there's elves and dwarves, and the Urgles are similar to orcs." And
What are the defining
there is a quest with a kind of a wizard man that takes him out of his town.
Yeah.
I didn't
And
make the connection until now.
and there's a darkness that he's running away from, like the Fade
The
and
Rozak.
the Razak, and exactly. And anyway, on our first episode ever, we did a mythic matchup between Saphira and Drogon, right?
Yeah. Who ended up winning that mythic matchup?
I think you I think you took it. I think
Then that's what the Instagram poll said, was that Severa would win.
Yeah. And
I think that's the
that's what
last
our
mythic matchup I've actually won.
that was what our wonderful listeners voted for. Although we didn't really have any listeners back then.
I don't know. First episode's one of our highest viewed episodes.
That's true. We had so much support. But this was a good foundation, this book. There's in this series, there's Eragon, Eldest, the second book, Briesinger, the third book, and is the fourth one Inheritance?
Yeah,
Yeah. The fourth one's called Inheritance for the Inheritance Cycle or Saga? Inheritance Cycle?
inheritance cycle. Yes,
Yes, the Inheritance Cycle. And then Murtagh, that book, I think it's a sequel. It's a sequel to
it is,
in
but it sounds like it's going to be its own series.
yeah. It's a sequel with a different protagonist. Yeah, Eragon, there's a lot to talk about, but any, I guess, weaknesses for this book that you haven't gone over yet?
Yeah, like I mentioned, the kind of the one-dimensionalness of it, and that it does read young adult. So those that are into high fantasy and very adult reading probably would not resonate with this book. I do feel like the it does read a little bit like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and sometimes it doesn't quite have just like the f- uh, a great flow.
Yeah.
But, for a 15-year-old writing this, it was incredible. Still did so well for how much, like, it sold and how popular it was. I remember in elementary schools, everywhere had the blue Aragon book with the picture of the dragon on the front, and everyone wanted to read it, and it was always so hard to check out of the school library because it was always taken out.
So you didn't get to read it in high school or in school?
I think I would, like, pretend to, like, in, like, 3rd, 4th grade, and, like, you just, like, kind of, like, look in the books and, like, read a few sentences, but I don't think yeah, I didn't ever actually read it until, uh, now I was in dental school, a grown man, and, I never saw the old movie either.
You have never seen it?
No, I heard it wasn't very good, so I haven't.
What? We'll talk about that in the Watchtower review. That's crazy. That's crazy.
But I'm gonna need to look up what I actually ranked this, but I gave it a pretty fair ranking where it was good, not great. It's a perfect spot for beginning readers to get into fantasy. It's a feel-good book. It's easy to follow. You don't lose track of what's going on, and at the same and the bad guys are good, and the good guys are good as well.
Yeah. Aragon isn't trying to reinvent fantasy. It's trying to make you fall in love with it. And I think it works.
Okay, I ranked it 7.9.
Really?
What did you rank it?
I ranked it 7.8.
To be honest, I think yours is probably more accurate as we've read more books where I was like, okay, that's probably closer to a 7.
Let's see. Goodreads has this book at a what's a 3.97. It's kind of right in between ours. Yeah, 7.8, 7.9. Hey, we got one right.
Yeah. I feel like what's hard about Goodreads is I feel like 4 stars might be just like slightly high, but then 3 stars, I'm like, that's just way too low.
Yes, totally, totally. So, do you want to go with 7.8?
I'm good with a 7.8.
All right. Your official protagonist ranking for Christopher Paolini's debut novel, Eragon, first book in the Inheritance cycle, is a 7.8. So take that for what you will.
And protagonist listeners or anyone that might be listening for the first time, that's actually a good score. We really only talk about books on here that we've enjoyed. And I'd say that if it's above a 7, it's a good book. We'd recommend it to the right people. And it's a fun listen, it's a fun read. And I think that you will fall in love with it as much as we did and want to complete the series and do so swiftly because you just like get so invested and into the world and want to see what Aragon can become.
Yeah. Yeah. Big points for imagination, big points for the Dragon Bond and readability. It's an easy read. It loses points for originality and early writing quality, but it's a strong debut. It's not a masterpiece, but it sets up a much better series ahead. And of all the Aragon books, this will be the lowest scoring one. And if you compare to our previous Dragon Rider book that we've gone over, Fourth Wing, we rated that one a 7, just so you can kind of compare Dragon Rider books if you are interested in taking our advice.
I do think that the people that read the o the Fourth Wing, the other dragon book that we've talked about, they're very different audiences and, probably will relate to different people in different ways.
Well
Not
said.
similar at all. Alright. That brings us to our next segment, which will be a blind ranking, and I'll be giving Carter a list of something to rank. And this week we are going to do blind ranking 1 to 5 epic fantasy dragons.
Epic fantasy dragons. Yes, listeners, you might think that we talk a lot about dragons, and that's because we do. Because dragons are one of the most important parts of fantasy.
They are. But this might be a hot take. I actually prefer fantasies without dragons, or dragons as a very minor role.
Isn't the original world in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere a dragon world?
It is. There is dragons in the Cosmere, but they're like such a minor part of it that it doesn't seem like too much of a cliche.
Yeah. But that's what makes me so excited to read like any prequel book that if he comes out with one.
Yeah. Well, I just read The Isles of the Emberdark. Great read. Really enjoyed it. But it does have mention of there's a character in there that's a dragon, but she takes human form. And it mentions kind of like the world of the dragons.
Hmm, cool.
Have
And
you read that one yet?
no, I want to.
It's a good one.
It's like a longer version of the short story, right?
So it has Six of Dusk is the main character, and that short story that was included in Arcanum Unbounded is just like the first chapter. Or actually, no, it's a periodic flashback for him in like the first half of the book. But there's a lot more that's added to it. It's not just a addition. It's like 400 pages more of information.
Wow. No, I'm excited for that one. I like it. I like it. I love
Anyway,
that short story. Yes. Okay, well, I'm excited. Epic. So, blind rankings, fantasy dragons.
yeah,
Is there any other kind, I guess? Yeah.
I'm convinced the dragons were real on our planet of Earth here. So what order do I want to give these in? All right, first up from The Hobbit, we have the dragon Smaug.
Okay. I mean, there's got to be a lot of criteria in ranking dragons. This dragon I think is the dragon that started it all, and he's got to be number 1. Like
Smaug is number
I'm
one.
I'm not saying okay. I guess this ranking is like best dragons in fantasy, like what they mean to fantasy, or best dragons like what I want to be their writer. You know what I mean?
I guess like just like their level of coolness.
Level of coolness. Okay. Well, wait. Back up a little bit. I was thinking I'll put Smaug at 2 because of, he's probably more recognizable than most dragons fantasy. He started it all. Without him, he paved the way for dragons everywhere, and he's so hard to kill. He's almost invincible if it wasn't just for fate, I guess.
One missing scale.
One missing scale. It literally took how many years was it between when his scale got chipped off when his scale
Tyrion.
got chipped off to when he got pierced by
It
the
was like
long arrow?
60 years.
Yeah. So it took all his whole life just to get one scale chipped off, and then 60 more years for that one little spot to be punctured and for him to die. And if you've seen the movie, I mean, he's just impossible to kill. But I guess they killed him, so he's not impossible to kill.
Benedict Cumberbatch did such a good job with him.
Yeah.
All
Smaug,
right.
number 2.
Next up, we have Saphira herself from the Inheritance Cycle. Beautiful
Whoa.
blue dragon.
She's a beautiful blue dragon. She's pretty cool. I mean, if you're gonna talk about dragons, you want to be their rider. She's definitely top of the list. I'm still thinking about a couple others that are cooler and that I might like to read more about. I'm gonna put Saphira at number 3.
Okay, respectable. All right. Next up, we have Balerion the Black Dread from Song of Ice and Fire.
Essentially, single-handedly conquers Westeros. It, starts the reign of the Targaryens in Westeros. Cool dragon. I mean, just a legend out of a world that doesn't exist anymore. Biggest dragon ever in Westeros or in the world, right?
Or at least after the doom of Valyria.
There, yep, there it is. I put Balerion at number 1.
Interesting.
I'd even rather have him than Terran.
Well, Terranok is the next one from the Imperium.
I'll put Terran at number 4. Although, if Terran comes with magic powers, then I definitely missed out.
It's just your opinions on who the coolest is. All right, the last one. This is going to go in at 5, no matter what. The dragon from The Bloodsworn trilogy. Rifa.
Dude, Leek Rifa deserves to be at number 5. She's too evil, man. I can't even look at her in the face. She's scary.
Are you satisfied with your list?
Yeah, well, Smaug, I feel like I had to put him at 2 just because of what he means to fantasy. Although, if we're talking dragons that I want to hang out with, he's definitely at the bottom with Leek Rifa. But if I'm talking about cool dragons that maybe I'd switch Saphira and Terran around. I'd rather have Terran above Saphira, but that's it. Leek Rifa, it seems like she can be pretty easily wounded. Like she doesn't have, it doesn't seem like she has scales. Like she's always bleeding and stuff.
Did she ever breathe fire either? I don't remember her ever breathing fire.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't remember an instant.
I wonder if she had like the ability, but just liked tearing people apart.
No, wait. She did remember in Shadow of
She does. You're right. She does in Shadow of the
in the
Gods.
in the but in the third book, in Fury of the Gods, doesn't she start to burn down that whole forest of like of the tree spirits? Like what are they called? I don't know what they're called, but I don't remember, but she has to. I mean, dragons breathe fire.
Yeah, but she doesn't use it very much.
No, she's a savage. She just likes to rip people apart. You're right.
You think she would have used that on Ulfir, but
That's a good point.
well, folks, to summarize, Carter's blind rankings for coolest fantasy dragons were 1. Beleriand the Black Dread, 2. Smaug, 3. Saphira, 4. Terran, 5. Leek Rifa. It's a
I
pretty good
didn't
list.
think you were gonna put Leek Rifa in there.
She's cool, but she's crazy.
She's crazy. She's crazy. Well, that worked out for me, kinda. It wasn't perfect, but it worked out enough. This next segment, everybody, is Guess Who, and it's going to be an Eragon Guess Who. And Mason, are we doing all the books, or are we just doing the first book? Probably all of them.
Probably all the books.
Yeah. So we have all the characters here. Well, good. We'll do 3 rounds. Best 2 out of 3.
Sure. Sorry, I'm looking up something. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Why don't you ask me first?
Is your character...
Oh, wait. I need to write my character down. Did you
Oh, I
already
do
do that?
too. I do too.
All right. You got me on the last Guess Who by a wide margin.
Yeah, let's see if I could have a good repeat. You
Hey,
might know the characters better than me.
was General Zhang one of your characters that I missed?
No, Zhang was one that you missed.
Zhang. All right. You're going to start.
All right, is your character human?
No. Is your character a dragon?
Yes. Is your character an elf?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does your character hatch in the books?
Yes. Is your character attractive in the eyes of Eragon?
Okay. Is your character what's Arya's dragon's name?
I can't remember, but no.
It's Fenrir, right? Is your
Is your character Oramus?
Yes. Can you see that? Yeah. There
Yeah.
it is. Oh, dude, good one.
You want to try to redeem yourself, make it a tie? Because I asked first.
I get another chance.
Yeah, I asked
Yeah.
first. You can tie.
You're right. I totally forgot. But that means I only have one of 2 options. Is your character Thorn? Is that a tie?
Well, we tied.
All right.
You did take one of the ones I was going to use.
You're going to use Ormus. All right. Let's see our second one.
You're gonna have a hard time with this one.
Really? Okay. All right. I'll go first this time. Is your character a dragon?
Is your character Glader?
No. It's not. It's not. But I was writing that down. And then I was like, no. Wow, that was good, man. That was almost good.
I was like, I'm gonna try to piss him off and just guess it on the first try.
That would have been so good. Oh, I was so close. Is your character or was your character a dragon rider?
No. Is your character male?
Yes. Is your character human?
Is your character a dragon?
Nope. Is your character Durza?
Is not Durza. Is your character a dragon rider?
Yes. Is your character an elf?
No. Is there dragon?
Yes, that's a good question. Boy, you think you got me on the next one, but let's see. So just to be clear, your character's not a dragon rider. Wait, an elf or human or Durza. Okay. So your character's got to be a dwarf, I think. No. Well, okay. Well, that burned my question. I was just thinking out loud, but okay, you're up.
Is your character Braun?
No. Okay. Your character human. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Do Eldenari count as dragons?
Yes, but it's not. I'll let you have it. I'll let you finish.
Is your character an Eldenari?
No.
Okay.
Is your character Galbatorix?
No. Is your character? I'm stumped, man. I don't even. Is your character a female?
I don't think so. You'll
You're playing.
understand. You'll understand what
You're playing games. Okay.
is your character alive in these books?
No,
Okay.
but mentioned so many times.
Okay, I think I got who it is now.
Okay, that means I have one guess here to get it. Okay, so your character is basically not a person.
Not really. This is a hard one. I'm going to give you a hint. They're cannibals.
Your character, what's their name? Let's see. All right. Is your character Garzvog in the Urgle?
No, it is not.
No.
Is your character Morzan?
Yeah. Yeah. What is yours? I can't even see that. A Razak? That's not even a character. That's a species.
Did they ever give him a name other than the Razak?
That is not a guess who. That's
How does that not count? There's two of them that were there
All right.
throughout two
But
books.
there's like new ones in Murtag, and it's not a single character. All right, you can win that. But now I see how we're playing.
Okay.
Razak.
Now you're coming in guns heavy.
You already did.
See what you got. You probably
All right.
named it Galbatorix's dragon's original name. The original dragon.
I remember that. I remember his original dragon's name
I don't.
because I remember asking you for the bonus question. It was Jarnunvosk. Okay, you start.
Is your character an Urgle?
Is your character human?
Yes. Is your character related to Eragon?
No. Is your character Nasuada?
Nazwada? No, it is not. You just went right for it. Is your character a dwarf?
No. Is your character related to Eragon?
Yes. Is your character a dragon rider?
Yes. Is your character Braum? Braum? Nice.
All right. To tie it, is your character Galbatorix?
No. My character is Eragon.
I don't know. Does that count as related to Eragon? Did you lie to me?
I don't think it counts as related to Eragon. Because I would never say I'm related to myself.
You're not unrelated.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I think we played some dirty tricks on each other, and we could call it a tie because we tied.
Dirty tricks? Me? Me? No way. Oh my God. Let's bring this. Yeah, let's share the blame.
With the Razak word.
Let's share the blame. I literally guessed every race besides Razak. That's pretty fun.
That ended in a tie.
Yeah. Okay. We tie the Guess Who game. So no winners unless you want to do a sudden death match
We can do a sudden death.
Where sudden death is basically you have the three main young dragon riders and their three dragons, and the first person to guess who the other one's thinking wins. So you got Fenrir, Thorn, Saphira, Eragon, Murtag, and Arya.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Is your character a dragon?
Yes. Actually, no. Sorry. No.
Okay.
Is your character Murtag?
No. Is your character Murtag?
But now I know that your character is Saphira.
Incorrect. Is your character Eragon? You got one more chance, buddy.
Is your character Fenrir?
Nope. Is your character Arya?
No. No, I'm kidding. It is Arya.
You have one more guess.
Didn't I start?
I started. I said, is your character a dragon?
How do I even guess? I've guessed Murtag, Saphira. Is your character Arya?
No. My character's Eragon.
Again? Now that's a dirty trick. You saw it here, folks. Carter's a cheater.
I chose the main character.
Cheater, mango eater.
A mango eater?
All right, does that bring us to our Watchtower review?
That's right. That does.
So we're going to discuss what we know, which for me is next to nothing, about the upcoming Eragon TV series, which will be on Disney Plus, I believe this year, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's coming out this year. I don't think it's coming out this year, but basically this series, the Eragon on Disney Plus, was first announced in 2022 as a live action reboot of the Inheritance cycle. After being quiet for a while, it took a major step forward this year in early 2026 with key hires like they hired a writing room which means scripts are being actively developed. So instead of, maybe happening back in 2022, it's in real development now. And the creative team matters a lot. So they have Christopher Paolini, the author, as co-creator and executive producer, which I think executive producer means you have the final say on everything. And
Right.
have you ever seen the show Psych?
It's like parts of it.
Anyway, they hired Todd Harthan, who was the co-showrunner of Psych, and then they hired Todd Helbing, who was the co-showrunner of Superman and Lois and The Flash, and most importantly, they hired also as executive producer Mark Webb, who did The Amazing Spider-Man. So it's way more legit creatively than the 2006 movie was. And I'm still shocked that you told me that you have not seen the 2006 Eragon movie.
No, I haven't. I just haven't heard anything really positive about it, and so I haven't gone out of my way to really watch it because it's not like places are broadcasting like, "Oh, we're playing Aragon, come here and watch it." I think it
I'll
might
say
even be on Disney Plus right now.
it was one of my favorite movies as a little kid, and I know this was before I read the books or anything, but I just loved the idea of a dragon. I'd never seen the Dragon Rider trope on TV or read about it yet, and so it was my introduction to it, and so the thought of it was really cool, and I liked it when I was a kid. It probably is cheesy now if I went back and did it. It's widely hated, I think, actually. It has a 16% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's right up there with Avatar: The Last Airbender live action movie by M. Night Shyamalan. Everyone just hate it.
Hey, but The Amazing Spider-Man is one of my favorite movies, and so that's cool that Mark Webb is working on it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first Amazing Spider-Man a lot. The second one had some issues, but it sounds like they have a good group there to kind of steer it in a good direction, and hopefully they get some good cast and create a good script that, I don't really know how they're gonna make this first book into a super long season. It'll probably be like 6 episodes max.
Yeah. Yeah. What we don't know yet is there's no casting announced. There's no release date. No filming has started, and there's no episode count or structure. So no casting or production timeline has even been announced. But I think they're just in the script phase and the hiring phase of the showrunners and the producers.
So something that I thought of that might be kind of difficult to portray in these shows and with the magic system in this book, a lot of the magic is kind of mental, just like in their head. Like when Murtag and Aragon are like fighting against each other, it's all kind of like in their head trying to break through like their mental cognitive barriers. Like, how do you like show that? Just them staring at each other like, oh, come on.
That's a good point. They might just have to not adapt that part, but it is an important part. I wonder how they've done that in other series with mental. They usually show like a strain somehow on their face, or maybe there's going to be something of a window into the telepathic communications, because there's already going to be that with the dragons and the riders. But the question here is, why does this reboot even exist? And we already touched on it's because that 2006 movie flopped critically. Like we said, 16% on Rotten Tomatoes and widely considered a bad adaptation. So I think Christopher Paolini was, after there was not like any sequel movies announced because of the bad score, I think that he's been eager to see his vision actually done right, like any author would be. So this show is basically a redemption attempt.
And in your opinion, what would it take to have it be a good redemption? Because it is possible to do this well and make it a entertaining movie that people love as much as they love the books.
Yeah, well, the author being involved is huge. I'm not sure what his level of involvement was in the movie, but him being executive producer with Mark Webb is awesome. This show has massive upside. If done right, it could be Disney's answer to Game of Thrones, but cleaner. Uh, it could be a long-running fantasy franchise. There's 4 books plus spin-offs, so there's lots of content, and it has a built-in fan base. Dude, these books have sold 30 to 40 million plus copies. That's a lot of fans. I think the ceiling for this is Harry Potter level franchise, like actually, if done right. Although such a high bar, it has potential. Although I don't think personally it'll get there, but it still has potential to be super successful. And most failed adaptations is because they cut the author out and they change core story beats. And hopefully that's, what Christopher Paolini will prevent. And he is in the room writing with these guys.
Yeah. I do think there is a way to do this very well and create an adaptation that people really enjoy. I don't know if I ever foresee it becoming quite like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. I do see it kind of getting to like a Pirates of the Caribbean level though, where everyone knows it and likes it and is well known, but there's not people designing t-shirts, dedicating like their whole life to it. It's not like the same lore or groupies, if you will, that are behind it. But I definitely can see this being something that's widely accepted, widely recognized, and overall people enjoy it.
And I do think it's actually impressive how many people already recognize, even people that don't read, already recognize the name Eragon and know that it's Dragon Riders. And it'll be curious to see who they write this show for, because it could be considered a young adult book. It could be written to be an adult series. And it's hard to compare it to movies because it is going to be a TV show.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest risk here is the Disney tone problem, where Aragon needs brutality and political tension and moral gray areas. And, Disney Plus often leans softer and safer, more family fantasy. So I wonder what the tone will be. If they Marvelize it, it's cooked, man. If they're doing what Marvel's been doing lately, it's cooked.
Or what they've done with a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. Just one more point. I think the dragons are gonna be the make or break factor. The Saphira's design, the dragon's designs overall, the dragon flight scene, just like all the dragon scenes and how they portray that telepathic bond between the riders and the dragons.
Yeah, I think Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, and I haven't seen Sir Duncan the Tall, but I think they've set the bar pretty high as far as like dragon animation goes and those designs. And I think overall people have like really, really enjoyed them. And I think that they've done a really good job in their dragon designs. And if they could replicate something like that for Saphira and somehow make it look like a dragon that's not just an animal, but also not cartoony.
I think because we are now used to the bar being set of dragon animation being at, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones level, that if the CGI isn't House of the Dragon level, it will immediately feel cheaply made.
I agree.
So, also structure. Structure's everything. So, are they going to make season one into are they going to make book one into one season, or do they stretch the first book into multiple seasons? As long as they stay true to the books, I think it'll be successful. As long as the dragon animation is there, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm really excited to see what they do with it. And so, an area that might make it even more popular is because some of these other Dragon Rider books, like Fourth Wing, have become so big that a lot of people and a lot of people claim they like the Fourth Wing because of the dragons. That it should bring a lot of people, like, in that group to wanna watch this as well to see, like, a good Dragon Rider series that might even be out before the Fourth Wing comes out, that they could, be getting into before that series eventually comes out.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any last thoughts on the adaptation?
I hope they get a better voice for Saphira than what we got in the audiobook. The audiobook was overall very, very good, I just didn't like Saphira's voice.
Saphira's voice was bizarre and hard to get used to in the first book, but yeah, as you get going in the books, it slightly gets better, but it is kind of interesting. An interesting voice there. Yeah, it needs to be good voice actors for the dragons, and obviously they need to have a good main character. So, anyway, listeners, the Aragon Disney Plus show is finally real, with the author involved, legit showrunners, and scripts in development. No cast yet, no release date, but this is shaping up to be a true redemption story after the disaster of the 2006 movie, which I still like enough to rewatch it, and that Mason needs to watch immediately. The ceiling is massive, but if Disney plays it too safe where the dragons don't hit, it could crash just as hard. So that is our Watchtower review, folks. Our next segment, sponsored and brought to you by Moe's Seafood and Chowder on the Oregon coast, bringing to you famous clam chowder for the past 80 years. This is the Weapon of Wisdom segment, which Mason has prepared for us today.
Thank you, Carter. I don't know who says this quote, but it is from the Eragon book itself. Christopher Paolini wrote it. And it says, keep in mind that many people have died for their beliefs is actually quite common. The real courage is in living and suffering for what you believe. And I really like that quote because I think I don't want to get too into religion or anything, but I think a lot of people say that they would die for their family or die for their faith or die for their significant other, something like that. But we don't often say, I would live for this person. I would become healthy for this person. I would become a better person for this cause. I would do these extra efforts for this cause and for my faith and for my family. It's much harder to live for what you believe in than it is to just not just, than to die for what you believe in. And there is a lot to be learned and gained and love and courage that you could show through living what you believe and not being a martyr for what you believe. And so for those that are believing in good things and believing in the best versions of this world, I would counsel to start living for that, start behaving for that, and being that version of you that is what you believe.
Thanks, Mason. That was heartfelt. That might be my favorite weapon of wisdom yet. Well, protagonists, thanks for being here. Today, as a recap, we did a book breakdown of Eragon, non-spoiler version. Then we did a blind rankings where I ranked fantasy dragons. And then we did a little competition with the Guess Who with Eragon characters. And then we kind of went over what we knew about the Eragon TV series that's being developed by Disney Plus, which isn't a lot, but there's some interesting things to learn and to be ready for. And then Mason gave us just a spectacular weapon of wisdom that I won't even try to paraphrase here. I just think you should rewatch the clip. And here I am breaking it down, the recap for you. So thanks for being here, protagonists. If you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure to turn on the notification bell so that you can be notified of any new videos, which we do a weekly episode released on Mondays at 5 a.m. Pacific time or 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we also do like 5 or 6 little shorts or clips, throughout the week related to the episode. So thanks for being here. And
smash that subscribe button, hit like, share us with your friends, follow us on Instagram. Thank you for your support.
See you next week, protagonists.